everyone. Today I am your reporter for the topic How to Teach Grammar from Rules, a Deductive Approach. So let's start with a quote saying, "Grammar isn't a set of rules that one memorizes. It is a living, complex, evolving thing that must be experienced, enjoyed, and accepted for what it is." In other words, grammar is much like woman. Why is it grammar is much like human? Why is it I used it as a representation of explaining what is grammar? So stay tuned and we will learn something about this topic. First of all, these are the two important words to be defined. What is a deductive approach? A deductive approach starts with the presentation of a rule and is followed by examples in which the rule is applied. For example, on arriving in a country you have never been to before, you are told that as a rule, people rub noses when greeting one another, and so you do exactly that. That is the explanation or the example of deductive learning. Next to that is, what is an inductive approach? An inductive approach starts with some examples from which a rule is inferred. For example, on arriving in the same country, you observe several instances of people rubbing noses on meeting, so you conclude that this is the custom and proceed to do likewise. Let's proceed. In the place of the terms deductive and inductive, it may be easier to use the terms rule-driven learning and discovery learning. Why is it rule-driven learning? Because a deductive approach is based on rule and an inductive approach is based on the observation of a person or the learner. The deductive or rule-driven approach to language teaching is traditionally associated with grammar translation. But this is unfortunate because grammar translation had a bad press. Why? Because grammar translation has fallen from favor are worth briefly reviewing. Typically, a grammar translation lesson started with an explanation, usually in the learner's mother tongue, of a grammar point. The problem is that, since classes were taught in the student's mother tongue, there was little opportunity for them to practice the target language. What practice they got involved only reading and writing, and little attention was given to speaking, including pronunciation. However, it does not require a great deal of imagination to envisage a new improved version of grammar translation in which many of its weaknesses have been righted. What this approach really does require is teachers with sufficient proficiency in both languages, the learner's language and the target language, to make it work. It is important to stress the deductive method is not necessarily dependent on translation. For looking at some examples of deductive lessons, it might pay to summarize the arguments against and in favor of such an approach. To start with, here are some possible disadvantages. First, starting the lesson with a grammar presentation may be off-putting for some students, especially younger ones. They may not have sufficient meta-language, or they may not be able to understand the concepts involved. Next to that, grammar explanation encourages a teacher-fronted transmission-style classroom. Teacher explanation is often at the expense of student involvement and interaction. Last, such an approach encourages the belief that learning a language is simply a case of knowing the rules. And these are the advantages of deductive approach. Get straight to the point and can therefore be time-saving. Many rules, especially rules of form, can be more simply and quickly explained than elicited from example. This will allow more time for practice and application. And lastly, it allows the teachers to deal with language points as they come up rather than having to anticipate them and prepare for them in advance. Thank you for listening. I hope you gain a lot of ideas and knowledge about my report.